It's my pleasure today to be interviewing Dr. Alfons Walder for the archives of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons. Dr. Walder, I came to know as secretary of the World Federation of Neurosurgical Societies. Dr. Walder is from Nijmegen, Holland, a lovely university town, where I had the pleasure of visiting him earlier this year on the occasion of his retirement ceremony. This is a very interesting and moving thing which occurs at the time of one's 65th birthday. The thing I was most impressed with, which I would like to tell you about briefly, is Dr. Walder created a truly neurological neurosurgical hospital, which is one of the finest, most functional things I have ever witnessed. I wish I had one exactly like it. Dr. Walder?
Yes.
Tell us how you got that hospital started. It took you a long time.
Yes, but I started in 1956, and I had the opportunity when I came to Nijmegen that this was just started to be built up. Before me there was not a neurological surgeon, but he started neurosurgery in 1942 in Nijmegen, but left Nijmegen in 1951 for Canada. So there was a period of 5 years in which there were only occasionally possibilities for neurosurgery. So when I came in 1956, I continued my neurosurgery in the older hospital, the community hospital, and at that time the new university hospital was built. So I had the opportunity to design the facilities in the way I would like to have them. Let's say the department, operating theater, neurophysiological department, neuroradiological. So that was a great occasion for me, a great opportunity for me to build it up like I would like to have. And I think they gave me the opportunity, for which I was very grateful. And I think together with the architects and all those people, we managed to have rather a very nice apartment.
It is remarkably functional and well integrated. But where did you take your neurosurgical training, Alfons?
I took my neurosurgical training mostly in The Hague, and a part in Amsterdam. In The Hague was the famous institute of Dr. de Vet, one of the first secretaries of the Congress in Copenhagen of the World Federation.
Yes.
And he trained me in Wassenaar, to be exact, which is the diplomatic town of The Hague, where all the diplomats are living, and where they had a special clinic for nervous diseases. Among them, Dr. de Vet was the second neurological surgeon from Holland. The first one was in Amsterdam in 1926, and he was the second one started in 1936, neurosurgery in Holland, and further on there was Groningen, etc. So he was the second one in Holland, and he trained me together with Dr. Hanraerts, who is another neurosurgeon. Both have, of course, retired a long time ago. But I was very happy to see him at the day I took my retirement tour.
Right, yes.
He had already 82 years old, but he was in very good shape and very active and very well up to date. Mm-hmm. He's visiting regularly neurosurgical congresses, which is very interesting, and yes, really he's a great man.
That was a very interesting ceremony. It was in academic regalia. It was held in a Catholic church. Dr. Walder had to give a talk of his view of the future of neurosurgery. Of course, it was all in Dutch, so it was completely beyond me. The only English that was spoken was that I did have the opportunity to say a word or two about Dr. Walder. And of course, being a Texan, I have trouble even with English. So I did say my remarks in English, and Fons replied in English as well. And when the ceremony was over, we retired to have champagne in the church, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Yes.
Fons, when you were working actively, did you have a favorite operation? Was there something you liked to do?
I was mainly interested in vascular surgery, that means aneurysms and AV anomalies. And in this respect, I had much interest in the freezing technique, the cryo, which I learned in 1963 from Cooper, Irving Cooper at that time. And I started with doing stereotactical procedures, but at that time there was rather some criticism about this method concerning the side effects involved. And that is the reason why I did during 3 years some research work in the laboratory, finding out what the reliability of this method was. And I finally succeeded to make a formula which showed that this method was reliable to make lesions in the brain. But next to this, I tried out what was the influence on the vessels. So it appears that this could also be used as a method to eliminate arterio-venous anomalies, because it provoked a reaction of the vascular wall, which gave reason to obliteration and thrombosis. So I did it several times, of course, in the first place on animals, and finally also on human beings, of which I operate upon 43 patients with this method. And no harm was seen, but the result was only 50% thrombosed.
And that 50% of them were thrombosed, or only 50% of the lesion was thrombosed?
No, 50% of the patients were, patients with this lesion were thrombosed.
Yeah, the patients were thrombosed.
No, but that's not the reason. But so it proved to be quite a method, but I wasn't satisfied with it because of the 50% who were not thrombosed. And of them, there were 3 out of 22 had a relapse, had a rebleeding. And that was for me the reason to leave it, although I still have some thoughts about it.
Yes.
So that the vascular surgery is in the first place, and next to that also meningiomas, which I'm very much interested in it. Another man of our group is interested in acoustic meningiomas and so on, but these were the 2 main interests.
And at the time of your retirement, your group consisted of 5 neurosurgeons, is that right?
Yes.
And how many neurologists do you have there?
Oh.
Or can you count them?
Quite a lot. In Holland, the neurology is still overwhelming the neurosurgery. We have, let's say, about 500 neurologists and 60 neurosurgeons.
Wow, almost 10 to 1.
Yes.
That is overwhelming.
Yes, and so that is also in this university hospital where you have, for example, I was the only professor, and neurology has 3 professors, and has besides that there were about 12 neurologist co-workers with our title. So there is really an important majority.
Yes.
Yes, and besides that, we have only 14 centers in the whole country on 14.5 million people, But that means that there are no new surgeons working alone. They all are working in a group which varies from 4 to 6 or 7 people. And
it seems like a very sensible arrangement. I've worried several times about the isolated solo practitioner of neurosurgery in this country.
yeah.
I don't really understand how they thrive. I, like you, started the service at Southwestern here, and I was by myself for a while, as you were, and it's certainly no fun.
No, no, it wasn't. It is the reason why my children didn't choose my branch and preferred to have another job.
Right.
Because they were not very spoiled with their youth concerning the father's care.
Yeah. Dr. Walder has a flair for languages. I know you speak English, French, Dutch. What else?
English, French, Dutch, German, and some Italian.
And some Italian.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. He also has a lovely home on the Riviera where he keeps his sailboat. How, I guess, growing up in Holland, the sea came very naturally to you.
Oh, yes. Yes. I have my boat now in the south of France because I'm spending, when I'm now retired, quite a lot of time there. But before that it was in Holland, and every weekend I was of call, of duty. My wife and I, Helen and I, did go to the inner sea and spend the weekend there, sailing to some old place which you have still left there from the golden time of Holland. You remember the golden age, and you have the beautiful little ports where you can stay overnight, and then you next day or the day afterwards you make trips to another place, and so you spend your weekend during summertime, of course, because during winter it's
a little
rather cold.
It's a little cold.
Better with skating.
I can vouch for the veracity of that statement. It's cold in the wintertime.
Sure.
Yes. How did you get interested in, how did you start working in the World Federation?
I was elected in 1971 as treasurer of the European Association of Neurosurgical Societies, who was then founded in Prague in Czechoslovakia, during the founding Congress. So I was there nominated for 4 years, and then another 4 years, and then I came in contact as delegate of the Dutch Society with the World Federation, and also as member of the Administrative Council of the European. Of course, I happen to know the secretary of that day, Willem Luyendijk, who is a compatriot for me, and we had a lot of contact, and he asked me to be candidate for assistant secretary in 1977 in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. In the meantime, I was a frequent visitor of all kinds of international congresses, including the American Congress. My first visit to the United States was the second World Congress in Washington, 1961.
In Washington, yes.
And from there on, I frequently did go to the meetings of the ANS Congress, even the Academy. I do remember once meeting in Mexico City, I think in about 1971, wasn't that?
The Academy met in Mexico City in 1971.
Yes, I was there, the guest of George Eny, you well known, late George Eny. And so on, I came in 77, I was nominated for the post of Assistant Secretary, who was just created at that time, and was that till 1981, when I became secretary, and the former secretary, Willem Luyendijk, became president of the federation. And in 1985 there was a re-election of the secretarial post. I was always very much interested in international relationship, And specifically, when working in the World Federation, I was very much interested in the way how we could help for the education of the underdeveloped countries, let me put it that way, because I still think, and I hope I did contribute a little bit to this respect, that there's a great need for the Western world to give a hand to those people, because there's a great need for them to have it.
That's certainly true. What do you, how are you spending your time now that you're retired from neurosurgery? I know in talking with you and talking with Willem, apparently in Holland, when they retire you. I mean...
Yes, yes. You don't have... the only thing is that you see patients at home, but that is rather inconvenient. But you are not allowed to work anymore in any hospital. And as we don't have private hospital in the way you have them, it's also impossible to work in private hospital. So, of course, you can continue working. What I have doing is young colleagues helping with their thesis, and they are presenting their thesis under my guidance and so on. So that gives you some work. Further on, the World Federation, because I have now more time available, so I can spend more time, and I think most part of the great deal of the day is spent
in the task as secretary.
Yes, yes. And beside that, you think you are short of time, and that's true. Every night when I'm going to bed, I say, I haven't finished my job. But the reason why is that you are not so disciplined anymore. And, before that time, you had to go to a hospital, you had to be there at 8 o'clock for scrubbing. Yes. The theater sisters were waiting. And so you started indeed going to the hospital at 7:30. But now today, I get my journal, and I'm going to read my journal at ease. And then I have my breakfast, and then I have my cup of coffee with my wife, because, you know, in Holland, 10:30 is the holy time to have coffee wherever you are. Everything really? Stops. You have to have your coffee. So it is almost 10:30 to 11 before you really start to work. So that makes the day already quite shorter, you know.
Yes.
And for social life, I'm not that kind of social type, but I have no excuse anymore for anyone to do some playing card, what I don't do because I hate it, but I mean social things, which I had always a good excuse that I had a meeting or that I had some work to do, but that's over now, so I have more involved in social life now. So there's no time left, anyone.
For that. How many neurosurgeons did you train?
Oh, I didn't train quite very many, because we have the, let's say, the rule that we only train doctors who are certain of a place in one of the 14 centers. So our training is restricted. I did train quite a few Indonesian boys who are working now in Surabaya and in Jakarta and in Yogyakarta. I did train people from Tanzania. And besides that, I did train 4 young doctors in Holland, who 2 of them are in my department and 2 of them are somewhere else. But it is rather restricted, and it has been restricted from the very beginning. When I started in 1950, I had to know that I could come to Nijmegen when I finished my training. Otherwise, I wasn't not accepted to be trained. Besides the other capacities you need, but you must have it so that we don't get neurosurgeons wandering around without a fixed job. And then that is numerous clauses we handled from the very beginning, and I must say that the government was not very happy with it. But now all the other disciplines are going to adopt it too, because they get an overflow of doctors and come in problems, especially the surgical branches.
And the government provides a certain amount of medical care for your people. You have a social Medicare.
Yes, we have 85% of our people is insurance obligatory.
Private insurance company or government?
No, it are not private, semi-private. And but there is a contribution, first place from the employer himself, from the man himself, secondly from the employer, and thirdly from the state. So three kinds of the social security and so. But those people are completely for a minimal price insured. I think it is a percentage of 1 or 2 from the salary. They pay for all the medical care. You know, and besides that, you have 15% who are private insurance. But the doctors are paid according to fixed salary or fixed honorary. As a professor in university, you get your fixed salary, and those who are not professor, they get paid per
case.
Per case, a fixed for every intravenous. There's a fixed price, and it's also for private patients. So you can't ask what you want. You have to deal with rules about this honorary.
And I presume the fee is standard across Holland. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
In other words, a craniotomy at Nijmegen is the same as it would be at Leiden.
Yes, yes.
Be the same.
It's all the same, and all the same for first, second, or third class, whatever you want. It is.
It's the same.
The same for the third class patient base, the same as a first class patient. Not for the hospital, but only for the
doctor. Only for the doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Walder, I want to thank you for being with us today. We appreciate this very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemp.